Syngenta Canada and C&M Seeds present the Wheat School on RealAgriculture.com.
Over the past week, we've seen the development of stripe rust in Ontario. Here we are at Ridgetown, Ontario cereal performance trials, and you can see how susceptible varieties can react to some of the most important and economically important diseases out there. And the rusts are some of the ones that can cause the most damage to producers, both in yield and quality. And here, if you look at this plot, just over a week ago or so, we started picking up typical symptoms of stripe rust. And as the name implies, you get the striping formation of these rust pustules on the leaves. Over time, they get larger and larger. And as you can see in this susceptible variety, there's probably 100 incidents we would call 100%. Each of these plants has some degree of infection. Overall, from a severity standpoint, we would say 40, 50, 60% of that leaf tissue on this variety is now showing the disease. It will have an impact on yield, but you can see how important it is to know your varieties, know what diseases occur, because something like stripe rust, this variety compared to variety on the left and variety on the right, if you look at those, they're clean. They have very good durable resistance. Stripe rust and the rust in general, including leaf rust and stem rust, are some of the most aggressive pathogens out there. They also produce a lot of different races. A lot of spores are developed at each one of these individual lesions. The result is you get a lot of variability. So it's important for growers to know what their variety's performance is in the field. A variety that's performing well today may not necessarily be the case in a year or two as new races of stripe rust or leaf rust develop. So over time, that resistance may fail. And so keep that in mind when you're scouting, when you're doing your pre-harvest scouting this year. Stripe rust, again, is a good example, and the rust in general, a good example of how they can adapt. Stripe rust in the past used to be a Pacific Northwest issue. Since then, it's been on this side of east of the Rockies. We've seen it in the Great Plains, we've seen it in the mid-U.S., southern U.S., and just recently again with the cool wet conditions, we've seen it in Ontario. It's a disease we get every year, some years worse than others. Fortunately, although we've had very good conditions for stripe rust, the movement of those spores into the province were delayed, and it's basically come in pretty well too late to have a significant impact on the overall yield of 2013. So remember, 2014, next year, think of variety selection. Take into consideration disease performance in those varieties. Fungicides are very good at managing things such as the rust diseases, septoria, and others as well. So consider those for an effective disease management practice.